So when something like this happens, a big national case, and you're talking about the size of Manhattan and finding one person, it really is the definition of needle in a haystack. But what are the tools that those detectives are using, like from day one?
It used to be a needle in a haystack. Now with the era of technology, it narrows that down, and we've seen a lot of that through this very quickly. We saw immediate photo footage, images of him on a cell phone 15 minutes prior, images from a retail store, Starbucks, of him, where they were able to say, okay, he drank coffee, he drank a water bottle, threw it in this garbage, let's go collect DNA. So it was that video evidence that helped them narrow that down. Finding that evidence is a needle in a haystack, but finding a person this day and age is not a needle in a haystack, thanks to technology. The e-bike, tracing him. One of the big things I talked about when this first happened is not only do you want teams checking and finding out where he went after, but you want to go before. And you saw how much of that was done here. Tracking him. Obviously, he knew that area. Obviously, he knew where he wanted to go afterwards. Was he there days prior? Was there someone fitting that description without a mask on a day prior, 2 days prior, a week prior? And we found out he was there a week earlier in that area. Did he check that out? They might have that evidence. The information that's given out to the public is minute compared to what they really have. And if you look at the plethora of information that we were getting as the public, as media, just know that there's that much more, being held back.
Mm-hmm. You're talking about an immense amount of cameras, an immense amount of footage to go through. Manpower-wise, how many? I don't know. I know you don't know a specific number.
It's hundreds. It's in the hundreds when something like this happens. Not only do you have the local task force, homicide task force, you have that precinct detective squad, you had night watch, you have everyone else brought in from other boroughs because it's a high-profile case. When they found out he went up through Central Park, you're now bringing in other detectives from that area. You're bringing in specialized units like scuba, emergency service, to check ponds, to check areas where things may be TARU, our technical unit. You also want to check back. There was reports of prior threats. Obviously, we kind of knew this was a targeted event from the start. And there were signs right off the bat that showed me this was not a professional. He did have the drop on this person. His first shots were from like 10 to 8 feet away, where a professional would have walked right up behind him, shot him in the base of the skull, put 2 in his chest, and walked away. Got rid of the gun, got rid of every sign that he was there. This was well thought out, well planned, and I said that from the start, but it was not a professional. And now we find out in hindsight that there is a person of interest, now a suspect in custody, that is named with his educational background being brought out and such like that. This is a well-educated person. This is someone who would thoroughly think something through, train for it, and see it through fruition, and that kind of fits with what we thought from the start.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned at the beginning of the interview, people on the internet might be saying, well, why are they still dredging the pond or whatever they're doing? There's still much more to be learned here, right? What happens now? This
case is not over till there's a verdict, and if a verdict even challenges to that verdict. So this case will go on, this investigation will continue until there's a verdict, which is going to be years away. The fact that he was apprehended in another state, they're going to hold him on charges. I believe it's just gun charges at this point, because they will now connect him through DNA, because they do have DNA evidence. They had it very quickly. They did a rapid test and they had DNA from that water bottle, from that cup. Now they're doing the more extensive, which takes some time. They'll have the DNA, they'll possibly have fingerprints. My understanding is they had his name for a while now. Just a matter of finding him, which was just a matter of time, which we saw.
Mm-hmm. And we're understanding that he was found because of a tip from a McDonald's worker in Altoona. What does that tell you about the effectiveness of getting his face out there?
Well, that's it too, but it goes back to technology, and Mayor Eric Adams actually just alluded to it in the press conference they just had in New York City. In our advent of advertising and cell phones and such like that, if you're walking in a certain town in Pennsylvania, you start getting advertisements on your phone from that town. Well, they knew the bus station he left from possibly had 5 or 6 destinations that it went to. They flooded those areas with that same type of technology. Let's get the media hits out there. Let's get photos of him out there. So just if you're walking around shopping with your family or you're scrolling your cell phone, it's going to pop up as something that's pushed for that area. It's my belief that had a lot to do with this. We're just reminding these different areas that this is where someone might be.